officially down in Kentucky. The confirmation's down there, and then we have a Ignatian retreat coming up for, I think women is the first one and men is the second one in Kentucky. The retreat is the last 2 weeks of June. The last 2 weeks of June, Ignatian retreat, and so we're trying to get things ready for that right now. We're hoping to have, trying to get somebody to install air conditioning up in our building, our retreat building, where the seminary is, because it's pretty hot in Kentucky in the summertime. But we've had a cool week this last week. It was hot, then it got nice and cool the last week, but probably isn't going to happen in June. So hopefully we'll get the air conditioner installed by then. If not, we'll just have to swelter. But nonetheless, it is pretty hot. But we have a couple buildings. One building has the air conditioner in it. My brother Bill's house that I'm renting, and then the other one is a seminary building. And so we have. And then, of course, I have a problem. I don't have anybody properly to receive the paperwork yet. So all we have is an email address, and I don't have any secretary to put everything together yet for the retreats. But there is Our Lady of Good Success at ymail.com. And our little mailing that we sent out, some of you received it. Did any of you not receive our mailing? Because I know that we have to get your names. Can you call Kentucky and get on the mailing list? Because I have my old mailing list. I've got, and we got mistaken addresses. We got people that take me off the mailing list.
I'll send it to you tomorrow, everybody.
Oh yeah, good. Just send it. All the mailing, because we get the addresses. I think there's a lot of people that aren't on the mailing, aren't on the address. We try to add people on the mailing list, but there's always mistakes. There's always problems. And in fact, we were supposed to bring with us. I didn't bring with me. I should have brought some of the Gladium. We have our Gladium magazine. It's only our second mailing. We're supposed to mail every month, but you know how that goes. I did a Christmas one, and this is the second one, and so we have but still we need to try to get the people on the mailing list, and then the bishop's coming, and he'll be here just a short trip really. He's going to be in the area on the 9th, and then maybe the 10th will be in the area, but I think he's going to be visiting some people or something. I don't know what he's doing. And then he will. We have the retreat coming up, and that's it. And then also right now, yeah. Usually they're because it's too big for the britches, but in that case the britches are too big.
Sorry,
for him. Okay. Yeah. But in any case. I don't know, anything's been happening up here, because we've been kind of, we had Easter and all that, but are there any, I hear about this Monsignor, that he's taken over a lot of positions in the parish. He's taking care of all the altar and rosary guild or something. Who is this Monsignor, the new Monsignor? He says that the one who said I will not be conditionally ordained. Since I was here last, I did go to Poland. And it was a classic Father Spivberger visit. I met with very few people, but I met with two priests. One priest I'm trying to work on converting as a society priest, a good priest, but he's struggling a bit. So we'll try to work on him. And then another is an old Franciscan priest, 95 years old, who does exorcisms every day. He told me, he says, I'll take a furlough the day the devil takes a furlough. And so he's an old tough guy. He's actually from New Jersey. He was born in Jersey City. I guess there's a large Polish community there. He has pure Polish blood, but born and raised here. And then became Franciscan. And then he was sent over to. He's 95 years old now. He was sent over to I don't know if it was Russia or Belarus or one of the Eastern countries, and they said it's really not good to be American citizen on your passport because you'll be suspect. So since you're Polish descent, we'll send you to Poland, get you signed up as a Polish citizen, and then send you in. So since his parents are Polish, it was very easy to become Polish citizen. He became Polish citizen. He went over there, and then when they sent him back, they sent him to Poland instead of sending him here. Normally they would have sent him here, but they sent him to Poland. And he's been back in Poland for 20 years. He said he's a Polish who had to learn Polish. Of course, he spoke a little bit because his family spoke Polish, obviously, in the home, and now he's been there 20 years. And he deals with all kinds of cases of possession, and he was given some support and some good advice, about our little battle here, so it was very good to meet him. One of the things that he pointed out, he says, we have already in the beginning of the chastisement. He says, we're already at the beginning of this chastisement, but sometimes there's a wrong way of looking at the chastisement, which is the punishment of the vengeance of God because of his just anger. So when we look at God, we see how he's interacted amongst men down from Adam all the way until today. And we see that anger and vengeance are not part of the nature of God. But he will give this chastisement, and he is now, but what is it? It's medicine and cleansing. So when the pots are really dirty in the kitchen, you have to take out, and they got grease on them, you got to take a heavy scrub brush. And so it's a very violent action of cleaning, but it's different than the action of punishing the pot by breaking it. So there's a great, in fact, there can even be more pain in the cleaning than in the breaking. Because if you break it, you just break it and throw it in the trash. It's finished. But the cleaning might take a very long scrubbing, or very scrubbing of every little nook and cranny in the pot. And but it's a cleaning so that there can be a greater refurbishing, a restoring. And so we've got to remember that we're going into a great chastisement, but we must remember that it's a cleansing and it's medicine. And because humanity is very sick, sicker than it's ever been, it requires stronger medicine. And medicine often tastes bad. So while it tastes bad, and while there is a wire brush scrubbing us, if we remember that it's a cleansing, and we remember that it's medicine, then we can be more patient and more easily deal with the trials. And so it's one of the things he pointed out about the struggle, and that he's dealing with the demonic attacks all the time, and he sees and one thing he mentioned to me is that in Poland alone, 4 religious every month commit suicide. 4 a month. That's priests and nuns. And that this is our age, and so that, and as also mentioned to me in Poland, how Poland survived World War I, World War II, 70 years of communism. It survived all kinds of persecution, but it did not survive John Paul II. John Paul II single-handedly basically destroyed the faith in Poland. So that and again, the love of John Paul II is a national pride. It's not about sanctity. And the other thing is interesting that even in Poland, John Paul II is still, of course, enormously popular, but he's not as popular now as when he was alive. We find in the case of the lives of the saints, especially the ones like, what's his name, the nutcase guy, not Joseph Coutinho? Benedict Joseph Labouré, right? The one that used to make himself stink and put more dirt on, and I think it was Benedict Joseph Labouré, wasn't it? Make himself more despised. Well, he was beat up during his lifetime, but when he died, and he had all these miracles, he's grown in popularity ever since his death. Teresa, for instance, she was loved by her fellow nuns, but she was not known. After she died, then her roses, millions of miracles and a massive spread. Same is true of all the saints. They became more popular after death than they were in life, even if they were very loved. Like even someone like Padre Pio or John Vianney. St. John Vianney was popular when he was alive, so was Padre Pio, but they were limited in the good they could do. You had to come and visit Padre Pio, you had to come and visit John Vianney. Now they're in heaven, so you don't have to visit. Now they can benefit all over the world, and the popularity is spread throughout the entire world. Of the real saints, the popularity grows. And this other interesting thing is doing a study on the canonization. Canonizations, I never thought canonizations could be part of infallibility, but I finally found a good study on it. But canonizations cannot be involved in infallibility for a simple reason, several reasons. One is it's not matter of faith. It's not contained in sacred scripture. It wasn't revealed by St. Peter that John Vianney would be in heaven. And furthermore, John Vianney, even though he's a great saint, and Anthony and all the great saints, they don't add to the gospel. They don't add to our beliefs. Whereas every single thing contained in Scripture we believe, and it benefits for our salvation. Like the one we mention all the time, Tobias's dog. Tobias's dog, we have to believe in Tobias's dog or you go to hell. But Tobias's dog wagged his tail when Tobias came and visited him. But that knowledge of Tobias's dog is necessary for our salvation. And it's also beneficial for our salvation. Because as St. Jerome points out, Tobias's dog is a symbol of the entire human race. and how it treats Christ when he comes to the earth. We can't do anything, but we can at least pant and wag our tails. That's it. And so it puts us in place where we fit with Christ. And therefore it's beneficial for our salvation. And every single truth contained in Scripture is that way. But when it comes to, do you have to believe as a matter of faith that John Vianney ate one potato a week? The answer is no. And furthermore, the way the church treats the saints is very different. When it comes to sacred Scripture and divine revelation, the church does not judge it. Did Jesus Christ teach it? It's true, period. Did the apostles teach it? It's true, period. Was John Vianney a priest? Okay, he's a saint. Absolutely not. John Vianney is considered guilty and not a saint until he's proven innocent. So there's a trial, and John Vianney was put on trial. And there was a devil's advocate who was a prosecutor to prove that John Vianney was not a saint. There was a defender to prove that John Vianney was a saint. There were witnesses, and he was put on trial, a most strict trial. There's no more strict trial than the trial of the canonization of a saint before Vatican II. And then finally, after miracles, after evidences, after cross-examinations, it was discovered that he truly is in heaven and he's a saint, and therefore a judgment was made. The church cannot make those kinds of judgments about sacred Scripture or tradition. The church can only say, that's what they taught, we believe it, even if we don't understand. We can't prove the Blessed Trinity, but if you don't believe in it, you go to hell. It is that which is taught by God. Boom. Period. Not the case of the saints. Now the church has the right to make saints. Benedict XIV said it very well. If it is not a heresy, so it's not a heresy, it is a grave scandal. And it favors the heresy to reject saints. Benedict XIV made this statement. It favors the heresy of those who say the church has not the authority to make saints. So what is a heresy is to believe that the church doesn't have the authority to make saints or declare saints. But that a particular man is a saint is not part of the dogma of the church. We even have many examples, or not many, fortunately few examples. Liberius was actually listed as a saint. He was removed very quickly because St. Jerome and St. Hilary, who were both saints, said, look, Liberius was a nice guy. He fell. He failed. And of course, in the 1870s, many authors tried to resurrect Liberius because of Liberius' signing of the heretical document of Sirmium and Liberius' excommunication of, of St. Athanasius. At that time, the dispute of Liberius was brought up to say Pope can't be infallible because the Pope signed a heretical document, Liberius did, and the Pope excommunicated a saint, for heaven's sake. And so even though he was under pressure to do it, he still did it. And if he was protected by the Holy Ghost and he was not infallible, he was infallible, he couldn't have done those things. And so there was the big dispute came up at that time. Before then, it was never questioned. Liberius fell. Liberius made a mistake. He's the first one not to be listed as a saint, but originally he was listed as a saint. And then he was removed. And then you have Clement of Alexandria, who was for 1,000 years listed as a saint. And then he was removed from the calendar by Pope Benedict XIV. And he removed him from the calendar saying that he was favoring heresy, even if he wasn't a heretic. He was questioned by some of the other saints, like St. Ambrose, St. Basil, or whatever, some of the other fathers of the church. And he doesn't have any great miracles, and there's no cult. It's interesting, one of the 3 reasons that Pope Benedict XIV gave that of removing him from the calendar. His feast day was December the 4th, feast of St. Clement of Alexandria. Now he is called Clement of Alexandria. He's still considered one of the fathers of the church, but he's not St. Clement anymore. The ST period was removed from his name by Pope Benedict XIV. And one of the interesting reasons that he gave is the cult. There was no continuation of his cult, like in the case of other saints. It diminished because there were no great miracles of Clement. He didn't have the power that Jerome had, and Hilary had, and Athanasius had, and all the true saints. In fact, that quote-unquote staying power of the love of those saints is one of the proofs that they're saints. In fact, that's one of the conditions before someone can be canonized. Well, the first condition of canonization is there a cult? Is there a following of that saint? Are there faithful that pray to him? Are there faithful that really believe he's a saint? Are there people trying to push his cause? If not, forget it. That's the first condition. That condition, and it's interesting, in the newspapers they pointed out, Attorney John Paul II, how long has it been? 2005. 8 years he's been dead. 9 years he's been dead. And already his popularity is cut by about half. It's like the popularity of a sports star. If you know Pele, he was a great guy. If you don't know him, who cares? The sports stars that you remember, you have a great honoring of. But trying to explain to your kids that, what do you call it, Jim Brown was really fast, they don't care. They don't care. And that's what's happening with John Paul II. And, and for instance, everybody forgot about Thomas Merton. They were going to make him a saint. He was well loved in the 70s, but they forgot about him. People still come to visit his grave in Kentucky, but there's a few old, pot-smoking followers that come over and honor Thomas Merton, and that's it. Nobody else really cares. And so and that's what's happening with John Paul II. Diminishing. And also another thing that's interesting, the effect it has. Look at the martyrs. When you read about the real martyrs, Saint Sirius, Saint Venantius, who you don't know anything about, you don't remember them. Well, you just read their story, and you're immediately strengthened and inspired in the faith. Like Venantius, he was the boy who was 15 years old. He is the one that was dragged over the rocks all day, tortured all day, and being beaten all day because the first three judges that condemned him to immediate death, and the judges died one after another. Finally, the third judge said, not only going to kill you, but I'm going to torture you. That judge lived because Venantius wanted to suffer. He didn't want to just die. And so God killed the first judges that only condemned him to death. The final judge condemned him to be tortured and die, and he was tortured. And at the end of his torture, halfway through the day, being dragged across the rocks in Egypt, and he was... The soldiers were tired and thirsty and exhausted, and they stopped torture. They took a break. He wondered why they took a break. He saw they were thirsty. He saw they were tired. He knelt up and said a prayer, and cool water came out of the rock so they could drink and continue with the martyrdom, which is what they did. And then a few of them later converted and were martyred with him, so that he was martyred not by himself, but with some of those soldiers. The rest of them continued the martyrdom. But you see how just the brief telling of his story inspires. What about John Paul II? Might inspire you to leave the faith. Might inspire you to worship, Bob Dylan, because Bob Dylan sang for the Pope, so he must be a pretty good guy. And he's a guy who said he sold his soul to Satan. Remember he admitted on 60 Minutes? 60 Minutes, I think, right? He admitted on 60 Minutes that he sold his soul to Satan, right? He said, that's where all my power comes from. And then Pope John Paul II had him pray for him, right? Had him go in front of him. St. Pius X had a wicked couple of Protestants, and they must not have been just normal Protestants. They were rich people, and they were probably Masons, and they're probably exceptionally evil. They probably weren't just your average evil dude. And they were brought before St. Pius X, and he was not happy with them. Because maybe the popes have to receive all kinds of dignitaries. And they said, please bless us, Holy Father, please bless us. And he refused. And they said, you have to bless us. And so he did give him a blessing. Albilo benedicaris and cuius honori comaveris, which is the blessing we do at Mass on the incense. May you be blessed, and him whose honor you shall burn. That's St. Pius X. And they said, oh, thank you, Holy Father. And then they went away. He gave him a blessing. He knew they were going to hell. That's a saint, right? Albilo benedicaris and cuius honori comaveris. That's what we say when we bless the incense. And whereas John Paul II invites the devil to come and sing for him at a rock concert. There's a definite breakdown in communications with heaven somewhere. And so that there are scandals. These are more scandals, but they show the crisis in the church. But like Father Ortiz says, when you look at John Paul II canonization, you look at the Pope Francis's reign, nothing has really changed. What's changed? The churches are the same now as they were when the Holy Pope Benedict was the Pope. Who was the first Pope that praised homosexuality? And in more clear terms, his name is Benedict. All that Francis said was, who am I to judge them? Which is worse? Who am I to judge them, or homosexual prostitutes using condoms in their homosexual prostitution equals the beginning of morality. So you want to become a moral faggot? Become a faggot who is a faggot prostitute and use condoms, and you can begin to become moral. That's the recommendation of Benedict XVI. Which one is worse? You cannot compare the two statements. Francis' statement is far less wicked than the statement of Benedict. There hasn't been a change since Francis became Pope. And besides, who's in charge of the church today? His name is Ratzinger. Whose ring did the cardinals kiss 2 months ago when they became cardinals? They kissed the ring of Ratzinger. They didn't kiss the ring of Francis. He's the one making the decisions. And Francis has 2 encyclicals. Who wrote them? Benedict wrote them. Who on earth is in charge? He is Annas, and Francis is Caiaphas. And just as in the Annas and Caiaphas situation, Annas was the power behind the scenes, and Caiaphas was the true high priest, but was just obedient to Annas, his uncle. So likewise, Francis is the true high priest, he's the true pope, and he is obedient to the guy who retired because he wants to run things on video monitoring from the background, just like Annas did. It's very clear parallel with the gospel, and it's a sign that we must be very close to a grave punishment. We're so paralleling the gospel so perfectly, and so, I mean, I don't know what is this. What's his name? Monsignor. What's his name? Monsignor Burns. Is he from New York?
Yep, he's from
Newburgh.
Oh, he's just from across nearby.
Yeah, his parents lived in Winston-Salem.
Last was his parish, Newburgh.
Oh.
Okay, but that was his parish. He's from somewhere, but he's in the region.
I know a little bit
Just a
about
few
it.
minutes from Ridgecare.
Yeah.
Paul Herrera, who was here at our church for many, many years.
Yeah.
Met him about 7 or 8 years ago, and he was dedicated just to doing the Latin Mass.
Right.
He's been hammered by his own diocese for a long time.
And they can hand out the whatever. Go ahead.
Father Zadejas told me that he was a priest that was standing on a log and shore at the same time.
Right.
That's where he was.
Right.
Because he was eventually something was going to have to give, because he
Right.
was trying to do the right thing, but
Right.
you know, you're held back to what you can and can't do. So apparently, finally, they're done with him. Get out.
Did they finally throw him out of the diocese?
Yeah, but there's problems
He left.
because you can't throw a guy out because he's got medical benefits and all these other things.
Right.
There has to be a big.
Yeah, there's a legal process, right,
It's,
yeah.
You know, because you can't deny him his benefits.
Well, we can. We do it all the time.
Yeah, but I mean,
But,
that's what they did.
but I know they have legal requirements in the diocese that we don't have. Yeah.
So, you know, that's all I know. I know Paul speaks highly of him.
How long has he been there now? All I know is he's supposed to have made an announcement he's not going to be conditionally reordained.
He did.
And that, you know, and it's one of those things we say about conditional reordination, that, you know, even if you can argue that the new ordination rite may be valid, and you can argue that because it's not like the new Mass situation where they actually changed the form. They didn't do that in the case of the ordination rite, but they changed the other parts surrounding it. So the thing is, even if it just simply asks, the rule of the church is about what's reasonable. Is it reasonable for the faithful and even the priests to doubt the modern ordinations? And the answer is yes, perfectly reasonable, because they screwed up everything else. Why wouldn't they screw that up?
Well, my understanding was with Father Burns, he told me they're wrong. He had asked Rastan if he should be conditionally ordained, and Rastan told him no.
Oh, okay, that's happened to Father Voigt.
Okay.
Okay, that's
And
different
Rastan
then.
told
That's
him no.
different. Because see, Father Voigt wanted to be conditionally ordained, and they refused, basically.
Further clarification.
Yeah.
That's what Monsignor Burns said, but then Father Goldaddy said he shouldn't have said that. He's still under investigation.
But that's what we do.
They're going to investigate for 40 years. That's what they're doing now.
Stonewalling it.
I got another priest who's been a year waiting to be conditionally ordained. Father Iglesias, who came here for 3 months, he was waiting 2-3 years to be conditionally reordained.
By who?
It was going to be Bishop de Galarreta, but he never did. Finally, Bishop Williamson reordained him, right?
So
Right?
society helped
Yeah,
him.
so, you know, and of course, but again, he wasn't being perfect. But the thing is, it wasn't like he was being a saint or whatever at the time, but at the same time, he was waiting for 3 years.
Yeah, but
They
there
were-
was a.
Even if he was still, but the thing is, in their defense, he was still at that, he was going back, he was in that back and forth phase. But there's many others, like Father Voigt, he was saying the Latin Mass forever. Well, not forever, but at least last 12, whatever, 10,
But
11
there
years.
was a point.
And they would not ordain them, see.
Where they wanted to bring those priests to the seminary. They wanted to bring the priests that were coming from the Novus Order to go to the seminary for a year.
Father Voigt did that.
Yeah,
He stayed in the seminary for over a year.
yeah.
Father Voigt did that, Father Morel, but Father Morel was conditionally ordained. But they never conditionally ordained him.
Yeah, it was just like like standing.
He
around
did the
and
year.
waiting.
He did more than a year. And he's just one example. But there's many others. Whereas in the past, that just didn't really happen.
Why is this Monsignor not going to
Because Father
Rose
Rossi-
Canyon
What
too.
about Father Gallagher
Right.
and Lafayette?
Is he older or something?
No, he's about my
25
age.
years. He was ordained-
Okay, so it's all Novus Ordo training and
He
everything.
said
Yeah,
maybe
he's
Carter.
in his late 50s or-
Go to- Yeah. Okay.
What
Right,
about that
right.
house in Kansas City?
Excuse me.
Where did supposedly, they took.
There's only one priest there, or two priests there now. Yeah, but they have very few priests there. And I think Father Peroni was one. He's one survivor. There's like 2 or 3 survivors. Father Gallagher, Father Peroni.
All of Kansas City.
Count them on one hand.
In order to have a training.
All right, God bless you. What is it?
Kansas City was moved to Flat City so that they could have a training house.
That's not why they moved it there. They moved it there because
No,
it's
but that's
better
what-
hunting.
That's what we were told.
Right, okay. Yeah.
Father,
Yes.
I guess Father Ronstadt's being transferred, and we're going to, Father Wagner?
Yes, Father Wegner, yes.
Get a little insight on Father?
Oh, okay, Father Wegner, he's really strict as well, but I think he's probably not as scary looking as Father Rostand. Father Rostand's got scary looking eyes, he looks like he's ready to do, he looks like a serial killer, if you go. So he's got scary looking eyes, pretty terrifying figure. Father Wegner is, he's German, so he's nicer appearing, and the Germans are more gentle in their appearance, and
He
they
said he's
speak
cold.
softer.
He's cold, though.
But
He's cold.
But they torture people. Usually, that's the flip side.
Father Wagner.
Father Wagner,
Yes,
Father
yeah.
Wagner is responsible for the branding. Apparently one of his
Right.
relatives.
Father Wagner is the one who got the branding going. Father Wagner is the one who refused to do the. I did a wedding in Quebec because he blocked the whole marriage. It was an unjust blocking of the marriage. It was all political. It wasn't directly about the faith, but it was inexcusable. The young couple, it was the case with the young guy. This is the case of the third. It's a family saying about there were 3 brothers and 3 sisters married each other. This is like the second of the marriage, and the third marriage, which happened 1 month later, 3 weeks later, because 2 of them got married close in time. That one was done by the society, and so this is the second of the marriage. So you're talking about 2 Catholic families raising their kids Catholic, so there's no issue there. There's no impediment. They just didn't, the father of the bride was just against the marriage. He wasn't against the older marriage, he wasn't against the youngest marriage, he was against the middle marriage. And so then the priest just basically, there's no impediment, and it's clear, Catholic, traditional, and the other 2 are working out. There's no reason whatsoever, no legitimate reason. And I asked them before I did the marriage, I said, okay, what's the reason? Was there some kind of great crime? Did, they murder somebody? What did they do? And he told me, no crime, no impediment, no problem. We just don't think it's a good idea. Well, you can't stop a marriage because you just don't think it's a good idea. You see what I mean? That's immoral. So Father Wegner crushed the other priest. He was very cruel to Father Fox. I think he broke Father Fox, and I don't think Father Fox will ever recover.
Really?
For instance, what they did when they went to the house, the priest also, Father Fox doesn't speak French, right? So he went to the French-speaking Saint-Césaire, and all the priests sat around the table speaking French to each other at the table, talking to each other, the ignoring female type stuff, sitting there right next to him, looking at the other guy, talking in French, laughing, not passing them, just doing little things that just wear you down. Mental games. He crushed Father Fox. He crushed Father Girard. He crushed a couple of the marriage. And yet he does have a nicer bearing than Father Rostand has. Huh?
Isn't he the one that told Father Girard about the branding and everything else?
Yes,
That's-
yes.
He's the one.
Yeah. He's the one that came up with the idea, brought it. And so my guess is Father Couture is coming over. I'm going to try to get Father Couture to join the resistance.
Really?
Good luck.
Well, I figure it's like this. He likes to travel around, and he travels all over the world. He did refuse me absolution and father, and but he's a sanguine guy. He can change his mind any day. And then but I'm going to go to him and say, look, Father, now you're trapped in Canada with just a few people. They don't even like you. You haven't been here for 100 years. Even though he's Canadian, he's never been there as a priest.
Really?
Never. He was ordained in '84. He's 30 years a priest and never set foot in Canada other than visiting on vacation.
Does Father Chazelle still have an open invitation for him to come back?
He has open invitation to never come back. Yes.
No. He told, Father Chazelle told me I think it was Father Couture that said to him, whenever you want to come back, come back.
No, Father Couture, he's going along with the modern stuff, but he's more the old-fashioned priest than the modern priest. He's going along with it because he's very close friends with Bishop Fillet. But he's very lovable, and so I'm going to talk to him and say, look, Father, you might as well join the resistance. You can go back on the circuit again, and go around, and you're dead end hanging out here in the middle of nowhere with a couple of losers. So, but I don't know. I don't think he'll do it. But,
I'm saying
because he's been 18 years superior of Asia.
He can join Father George.
No, he would never do that. Father Gerard's hanging out in one place. Father Couture's got to go all over the universe. He can go back all over the universe again. And also, he's a good example. Even though he's going along with the modern ideas, he's going along, but it's not in his heart. Remember the end of the Sound of Music? You'll never be one of them. Remember when they said to the kid, the old kid, I am 17 going on 18,
Ralph.
whatever his name was.
Ralph.
Yeah. He says, because even though he turned him in, he really wasn't one of them. Right? He never could really be one of them. He was going along with it. He did a bad thing, but he's just not one of them. Father Couture, I don't think, is really one of them. He's doing really bad things.
But isn't that the problem with the whole?
That's the problem.
The whole society
They're the
is-
most dangerous ones because they are lovable, because they can have a conservative, because his heart is still conservative Catholic, but his mind is switching over. So the Catholic heart comes out sometimes and it deceives the people. That's why, like my brother, for instance, who's 100% against modernism, he's sliding, but he is the key to Bishop Fillet's victory. It's the conservative priests. That's why Father Zendejas can't do what he's doing, for he'll lose it. Father Zendejas, as great as Father Zendejas is, if he continues like this, he'll collapse. At some point, he's got to stand up, Yeah. See, he's with us. He's with us intellectually, so to speak. But what he's doing is he's living a lie.
His heart is with us.
He's trying to protect his sheep. He has
But the thing is, it's not working. He's not protecting them. He's deceiving them. You see what I mean? He's giving them the slow poison instead of the fast poison, which means two things. They'll die slower, but recovery is almost impossible. When your body is healthy, you get quick poison. You can remove the poison from the system and your heart's healthy again. But if you've got a long, slow poison, even if you remove the poison, you never become healthy.
Father Couture's give it of the fast poison.
Say what?
Never going to recover.
See what?
Father Couture's give it of the fast poison.
Well, he is and he isn't. He's doing both. He's a mixed bag. He shows out the sledgehammers and machine guns, and then he goes and being huggy and hissy. So he does. He's not consistent. That's part of Father Couture. Like when I first arrived in the Philippines, also he gives an order, and nobody else even pays attention, because he won't remember the order the next day, and he'll change it the next day. So but I would listen to his order and obey his order. The next day he'd come and change it, then I'd change it, and they said, "Why are you doing that?" We don't even listen, because he won't remember and he changes it.
Father, what do you think of Father Anglais?
Father Anglais is really bad.
Yeah,
He's
what happened?
different.
Was he always bad?
Probably he was always bad.
Oh.
His uncle was one of the leaders in Vatican II and made the music. Probably he was always bad.
Really? And 3 of his relatives were on the wrong side in the Spanish Revolution, where all the nuns and priests were being murdered.
Right.
3 of his relatives were
Right.
on the wrong side.
I mean, I think he's been on the wrong.
Martini side.
Right. Yeah, I didn't know that, but it all fits.
That's why he's this rich noble,
Right. Just what they say, the rich guys in Mexico.
Yes.
They're all Cristero murderers. That's what they have in common. Right? Right? And so their glory goes way back, Yeah. And so it's probably like that. I know that the thing is that there's, I know Father Delano was talking about the family connections. You can make too much of it. But the fact is, it's pretty consistent. You meet a Rothschild, it's probably a good idea to watch your wallet. and your back, you know. But I'm sure there are good ones. I'm sure there's good members of the family who became Catholic that aren't wicked, etc. But the problem is that that's not the general rule, and you better be careful, you know.
So what did you say about Father Delalo?
Well, Father Delalo used to all the time talk about this guy's related to that guy, and this guy's related to that guy, and therefore he's wicked. You know, his butler was a Jew. And,
He was
you know,
referring to it, he was
Those
referring to
tie-ins are important.
what?
Those tie-ins are important.
They are important, but you can you know what I mean? The ties are important, but you can overemphasize it, you know? You can't overemphasize it.
You gotta know
I
where
don't know,
somebody
what
came from.
is thicker than water?
Yeah, it is, but the thing is, some of the saints, remember, you know, with the two brothers, the two saint brothers, they're kind of spiritual fathers of the society, the two Jews, the Lieberman brothers, you know?
I got your book.
They're like saints, you know. I don't think they were canonized, but, you know, they're definitely very holy men who founded the Holy Ghost Father.
It's on
And that was to convert Jews.
front
You
seat.
convert Jews, yes. But again, they came from wicked background, you know? And they were probably high up in that wicked background. I know they were Jewish converts, but my guess is they were probably pretty high in the food chain. St. Paul, for instance, he was a Pharisee, right?
Yeah.
So it's true that the majority, Nicodemus was a coward, and then he converted also. But again, he was a Pharisee, but he was a weak Pharisee. Saul was a wicked Pharisee. Saul of Tarsus, he was a wicked Pharisee. I can't take it because of still too much time. I guess it would just live. That's fine. Thanks. Yeah.
You got 3 hours.
You know. Yeah. It's okay.
Just about.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it's it's too late.
That is.
Yeah. But of course, my confession usually go really late, but I can't count on it.
So we have someone to be confirmed.
Yes.
When do we have to let somebody know? And is
Right
somebody
now.
giving out the sheets?
Can you, Frank, take care of it right
What's
now?
that?
The sheet for confirmation. We don't have.
Everybody, if you're on my email, you're getting it through the email.
Yeah, because we also don't forget the conditional confirmations. We've got to make sure we get those in as well. A lot of them are conditional
And it's not going to
confirmations.
be here, it's going to be in New Jersey.
It'll be in New Jersey, but it's not that far. It's just across the
It's
street.
from here, it's less than an hour.
Yeah. It's not that.
It's on a Monday.
It's on Monday. Monday 6
The
p.m.
bishop said Monday, it's a Monday.
Yeah, right. Monday 6 p.m. You know, we originally it was going to be Tuesday, but it was Monday 6 p.m. And then the Sunday will be down in Kentucky. The previous Sunday will be in Post Falls. In between, he's going to go to Phoenix,
Yeah.
Minneapolis.
That's why we had to get this
Yeah.
place, because other places will let us.
And, you know, so it's kind of a shorter trip than the last time we did this confirmation run, but it never makes it too long of a
No,
run.
people are gonna bring stuff.
What about the Father Four being consecrated?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything. My guess is it'll never happen, but if it does, it'll be good. But
It has to
Just
happen.
bring cash, that's all.
yeah.
It has to consecrate.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I don't know. I think that you wait. He says he's got 9 years
For what?
because Archbishop Lefebvre was 83.
Oh,
Who has 9 years?
74.
Bishop Williams has 9 years?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
He doesn't think the world has 9 years, but he does. So when the world comes to an end in 2 years, he'll still be around.
Floating out.
9 years before he died.
Okay. You know, so I think he doesn't do all the correct mathematical
He doesn't
calculations.
have to do it, he has 9 years left.
How about the Dominicans?
The Dominicans, you know, there's going to be a meeting, I think, in France in mid-July. Because right now, you know, we are fighting against a sedevacantous disease.
Ugh.
What's
What's it?
Right.
Wait.
The disease
Uh,
is rancid.
Wait.
Is it catchy, Father?
It's catchy. No, the disease is not Francis. The disease is Filet.
Yeah.
The
right,
reason
right.
for
Thank you.
the temptation is not because of Francis. It's because of
It's just
Filet.
Filet.
Yeah.
Is the Boyle,
We would
the
need
Boyle
Filet if
boy,
we
is
had
he
a
with
boat.
us?
Excuse me?
You know the
Yeah, right.
Boyle?
Richard Boyle?
Well, oh yeah, the young Boyle. Yeah.
Did he go with is he with the Dominicans?
Oh, he's still there with the Dominicans. Yeah.
Okay, so his father in Philadelphia, are you in contact with
I
him?
know. I think in the case of what I haven't had a chance to talk to them. They don't go to our mass. I mean, we
They don't?
keep it. No, they don't. But
You ever call him?
I think that they're divided. You know, one son is here, the other son is there, and I think also they're in that maybe. I've spoken to him just once. Father Hugo's spoken to him. We've not been able to. It's been
He's
rare.
very good.
Yeah, they're very good. They're both, but I think they're in that state like many people, watching in doubt. Like I ran into another case just recently, a lady who goes to the Institute of Christ the King, right? And some go to the Fraternity of St. Peter. They go to the Institute of Christ the King with their family. Then they listen to all the resistance sermons, right? And they with the resistance. So then after Mass, they then invite the family out to coffee and whatever, breakfast or whatever. They say, "What did Father say today?" He said this, and this is why it's wrong. Bang, bang, bang. So they're going to the Indo, which they shouldn't be doing,
No.
going to the Institute of Christ the King, going to the Fraternity of St. Peter, and they're against it. And then they're trying to quote unquote convert the people that are there. So it's kind of, you know,
We know that doesn't work.
it doesn't really work, but it's interesting. We're discovering more and more that the people that are following us are everywhere. There's Novus Ordo people, Institute of Christ the King, Fraternity of St. Peter, mainstream SSPX, priests as well. Many priests like to watch the sermons, for instance. And some of them, like in Europe, for instance, you know, it's illegal for them to have a smartphone because they have to have an SSPX, what do you call it, address, so they can be monitored at all times.
No, we're fine.
I think computers monitor them.
Yeah, but
They have the software.
But Richard,
So they don't have to they can check combinations of words, you know, like Pfeiffer and Williamson and, you know, and so, yeah,
there's a lot more than there used to be.
it's very complex.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
you mentioned in the sermon that they want to put a society chapel in Boston. Is that?
No. They have one in, no, just in Louisville. They
You
already
said
have.
Boston, Kentucky. You said people want to move to Boston, Kentucky like they wanted to move to St. Mary's.
That's
Stadium.
right, that's correct. That's if people want to move, that's right. Yes, if people want to move to Boston, they like want to move to St. Mary's, right.
You
Yeah.
think that's going to be the Holy Grail?
Right, yeah, which of course it isn't, you know. And so and I think now things are so much worse than before. It's just more of a challenge, you know. And also, I think also the people are moving. If you want to talk about moving, I think there's multiple reasons now. In the past, it was I'm leaving here to go to there strictly because of the faith, really. But now, the economic collapse, the social collapse, there's just a general fear. I mean, yeah, it's all around us. I mean, you got to see it when you're into work or whatever.
We're getting to a
Isn't
point.
it just there's just more
See, we're
fear
getting
now
to
than even a few years ago? Isn't that true?
Father,
Everybody
yeah.
says
what we're doing,
that.
we're getting to the point where we don't want to associate with people we don't want to associate anymore with.
Right.
We want to associate with people that like, more like thinking in a
Right.
sense and everything
Yeah.
else. You know, too many of them.
Are they waking up in Vanetta?
Say that again?
You're all
Are they
around
waking
them.
up in Vanetta?
Not much.
No?
No.
Even that's not going to wake them up.
Well, look at when you got canned, nobody really
Nobody-
cared, right? And when Bishop
90% of the
Williamson
people
got
didn't
canned,
care, and 70% of the people didn't even know about it.
right? That's right. And with Bishop Williamson, nobody cared. And that was, remember, that
This
was a
is
great
true story.
scandal.
I invited people, when Bishop Williamson was in the Steelworkers,
Yeah.
I invited people from Ridgefield there. This is a true story. When they were at the Steelworkers, Bishop Williamson said something from the altar, and they came to me and said, Hugh, what do you mean he was kicked out? They didn't even know that he had been kicked out a year. And they went to the Steelworkers.
Right,
And
right.
I said, where do you live, under a rock? And they were there at the Steelworkers. They said, Hugh, what do you mean he was kicked out?
Right, yeah. Right, yeah.
Hello?
Right. But that's
So
all
people
very
don't
common.
care.
Yeah,
They don't pay attention.
No, they're not being given information. That's the
But they don't want it.
And they don't
Remember, there's
listen.
another
They
factor.
They don't
want
listen.
it. The other problem is this: the ones that do want it, you don't know them.
Yeah.
That's why, you know, there's people. I know there's people right now in the parish that don't even know we're here. For instance, they would be here if they knew about it. Even after all this time.
No, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure anymore.
No, I
Okay.
guarantee you.
No, I'm not
but
sure
I'm finding
anymore.
about them even now, year after year. We're discovering other places.
No, I
Yeah,
talked
but
to
I
somebody
think in
yesterday.
Ridgefield, it was so contentious. They know. They know.
No, you don't be surprised.
I
People
talked
that
to
come to
somebody
mass on
yesterday.
Sunday,
Yesterday.
They
I
don't
talked to them.
know.
They had a car wash. I said, hey, Father's going to be in Danbury. Oh, daughter, we just raised $1,000 for the school. I said, what's the matter with you people?
right,
And so they have to go there today, because they're going to brag about how much money they raised for the school.
right.
I said, Father's going to be in Danbury today.
You know, they're changing.
But he came up to me 2 weeks ago. He said,
How was the
when
school
Bishop
doing, by
Williams
the
is
way?
here, you let me
Anybody have
know.
kids in the school there? How many kids are in the school now?
There used to be like 40.
I think there's a.
Yeah, they used to have 80, now it's around
It went
it's around
down a bit.
50.
I know schools are always complaining. It's hard to judge with schools because people always complain about them. That's always the case. But at the same time, though, there really has been a change towards liberalism.
One family with 5 or 6 kids just left to go to Monsignor Burns' parish.
Yeah.
But see, again, the reason not to go there. You know, I think we're in the situation where Tavia, remember the Fiddler on the Roof?
They're in St. Mary's.
In Fiddler on the Roof, I think many traditional Catholics are in the Tavia position.
They what?
You know, Tavia, the father of the 3 daughters in Fiddler on the Roof.
Yeah.
He loved tradition,
Yeah.
and he loved his daughters. And the daughters were going away from tradition. But he didn't know why he was traditional. He wore the prayer shawl thing, and remember, I wear this every day, and I'll tell you why I do. I don't know, right? He loved the tradition. He lived according to the Jewish tradition. Well, he didn't know why. And so therefore, when his daughters went away from tradition, he loved his daughters, but he couldn't argue against them because he didn't know why they were wrong.
He didn't know which side.
So he loved the daughter
That had a fiddle on it.
and a fiddler on the roof. He loved the daughter and he loved tradition. And I think that's where a lot of people are.
They don't understand
Yeah,
it.
they love Bishop Williamson, they love the old SSPX, but they also like, you know, Father Goldaddy.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
And then they don't necessarily like everything that he's doing, but if they reject what he's doing, it means that they're going to say he's not a nice person. And that was Sevier's mistake. He says, well, if I tell my daughter this is wrong, I'm going to be rejecting my daughter. That was his mistake. He wouldn't be rejecting his daughter. He'd be correcting his daughter and helping his daughter. And it's also interesting how the first daughter takes a small step, no big deal. Second daughter makes a little bit bigger step, but again, not essentially a big deal. And the third daughter leaves the faith. And Tavier is shocked. Can't believe it happened. And I think that's another thing that's going to happen to the society people. They're going to be shocked. And then at the end, he accepts her anyway. But then also the interesting thing, Fiddler on the Roof thing is a magnificent story of our times. But at the very, very end, the fiddler is gone, but he allows the fiddler to come with him, you know. And so that there's some hope of a return. There's some hope of a return. But he gives in, and I think that's where the majority of people are. And then they reach that point where they don't want to understand. Because if they understand, they're going to have to choose.
They got to do something. The frog is boiled, and now they have to do something.
Right, and they don't want to make that choice. And remember where the boiling frog analogy failed is in our case, the frog can never lose the power to jump out of the pot. If you've been boiled for 1,000 years, God will always give you the power to jump out. Remember the temptation can never be too strong?
Yeah.
So in our case, even if you're, no matter how much you're boiled, you always have the power. And that's the reason why you have to make these acts of the will that are kind of against, you know, the God, you know, because if you didn't have the power, you wouldn't be guilty.
Right. But at some point you decide, I don't want to know the truth because then I have to do something.
Right.
And that's where they are right now.
And again, that's where the fathers of the church give the example. Fathers of the desert, to give the example, pulling the weeds, and you pull the weed when it's little, 2 fingers. You wait 1 hand. You wait longer. It's really hard. You wait really long. You got to use all your might. Always possible, but really difficult when you wait.
I think most people are looking at the secular church and accepting them as a real church.
They are. Guess what? They're being taught that. In fact, it's coming across all the time now. Remember, there's only one church, but it's wounded. We heard that so many times in the 70s. I remember all that. All the time you heard that. Yeah.
The other day, I know Archbishop Lefebvre used to say there was one pope presiding over 2 churches.
Yes, yes.
And Bishop Williamson always talks about the new church.
Right.
Well, and the other day at the checkout line at Stop and Shop, I saw a magazine, Time or People or something, had Pope John the 23rd and Pope John Paul II on it. And the headline on the magazine front cover said, "New saints for a new church." The secular media can see it. I was thinking of buying it, but I didn't want to, you know, I didn't want to support it.
Oh, that'd be great.
I should have bought it, but
Oh, we
it's
should
probably
get
still
that.
around.
Is it, that's the reason? It was that Time magazine?
Yeah, it was like last week.
It was
Last
when
week I
the
saw it.
canonizations went through.
Saints for a new church.
Right,
Yeah.
but it was all
They got it
white
right.
background, they had the 2 photos, and then in large black text, and new saints for a new church. I just couldn't believe it. I'm
Yeah,
like,
everybody knows that.
It's so blatant.
Another thing that's really interesting, again, to tell you the truth, I think these are proofs against scientific contism
Why?
because they show the protection of the Holy Ghost. What the Pope should have done, Paul VI back in the Missale Romanum days, he was wicked. He most likely was a Mason, even if there was rumors that he left Masonry. There's rumors that Paul VI left Masonry.
Rabid homosexual.
So he became like maybe he had like a quote-unquote conversion-ish experience, right? But
But
he-
if you're a Mason, you can't be elected pope, and he said that.
No, it doesn't matter. Just like Obama can't be elected president, but guess what? He's the president. The thing is, but no, but forget about that. Forget about that. The fact is that if he was, what he should do is, if he was really, he's wicked, and he was an iron fist. Paul VI is a great example because he was an iron fist. He was cruel, and he smashed anybody that got in his way. Why didn't he say, I declare and define and command that you must use a Masala Romanum? Masala Romanum, for instance, is a legally worthless document. It makes no legal decree. It's not even legal, much less quote-unquote infallible. It's not even legal. And Paul VI wasn't an idiot. He knew what legal
He
was.
was wearing the Jewish ephod.
No, but the thing is, forget about that. If he was really...
Caiaphas.
No,
right?
Caiaphas was the real
Yeah,
high
wearing
priest.
the ephod.
I know that,
Hello.
but Caiaphas was the Pope. Caiaphas was the head of our
Same
church.
way Montini was.
That's right,
Wearing
same
the
way,
ephod.
of course.
Old Testament
But
Pope.
Caiaphas was a true head of the church who used the entirety of his authority to destroy Jesus Christ. Now we got a New Testament head of the church who's using the entirety of authority, but he's still protected, just like Caiaphas was. Caiaphas had to say, one shall die for the people. Yes.
Father, Pope Francis did say, we define and declare for the whole church, by the authority invested in him by our Lord Jesus Christ, that JP2 and John the 23rd are inscribed among the list of saints.
Even Father
Yeah, no,
Robinson was
but
a
the thing
fan of
is-
that, Father.
No, remember the whole question of papal infallibility, canonization. Canonization does not fit and can never fit in infallibility. It's a judgment of the church, just like the judgment of marriage. When the Pope said, you must get married in front of a priest, that doesn't come from Christ, it comes from the church.
Well, that's disciplinary.
Yeah, but it's disciplinary, and you're obliged to it under pain of mortal sin, but there's exceptions, there are exceptions because it's not from God, it's from the Pope. It's only indirectly from God. In the case of canonization, canonizations can never be part of the infallibility of the church. Father Faber has a good book on it. Father Faber points out that, and Father Faber is in favor of he wrote a book in 1848 called Essays on Beatification and Canonization. And he what do you call it? Father Faber, he was in favor of believing the canonizations were probably infallible, but he admitted in his book, Suarez, St. Thomas Aquinas, for instance, and many others.
Says they are.
No, St. Thomas Aquinas says they're not.
Why is it in all the Catholic?
St. Thomas Aquinas says,
It's wrong to think that they're not.
he says it's wrong. No, it's wrong to deny them. Not wrong, but he says they're not part of infallibility. And St. Thomas Aquinas gives the reason. He says because the Pope is infallible in the judgments of matters of faith and morals, but in the case of canonization, there is a connection with faith and morals, but also particular facts. And the particular fact is, did this man follow the gospel? Because see, the only matter of faith and moral is, anybody who dies following the gospel must go to heaven. That's the doctrine, right? Okay? Anybody that dies, that's anybody, whether you're canonized or not, right?
Jew, Protestant, anybody?
Anybody that dies following the gospel, they have to become Catholic. That's part of following the gospel, right? You have to join the Catholic Church. But the thing is, anybody who dies following the gospel with the state of charity goes to heaven. Like the good thief and everyone else who's in the kingdom of heaven. Now, those that practice extraordinary virtue, these are also called saints. But what's a matter of faith and morals is that whoever dies following the gospel must go to heaven. That's the teaching of Christ. But it said, well, St. Thomas Aquinas points out, while that is true, what we're saying is a particular fact. This man, Ambrose, died with the miracles, with faith and morals. That's where the doubt is. Because while it's true that if Ambrose dies according to the gospel, he must go to heaven, we cannot know with an infallible certitude that he did that. And they give the
When the Pope canonized him,
No, not true. Not true. Because he can only define infallibly what's in the gospel, not the particular fact. That's what St. Thomas Aquinas says.
How does he have to define
What's in the
gospel?
catechisms? Father, I
No,
told catechisms to 8 children.
I know that, but the thing is, but this is the
All
teaching of the church.
Every
St. Thomas
catechism.
Aquinas.
Yeah, but he's not the Pope anyway. so
Right,
don't
yes,
worry about it.
well, no.
That's the point.
No, he is the Pope. He is the Pope, right? But go ahead, yes.
Is it correct to say that in this argument,
Yes.
in this argument, that the Pope is speaking for the Consicular Church, not the Catholic Church?
There's only one church according to...
No, but either way, that's not good enough. Because remember, even in the case of the canonizations of the other saints, Benedict XIV says it the best, and he says it in a very solemn decree with an anathema attached to it, right? And in his solemn decree, Benedict XIV says, it is not a heresy to believe that the church's canonizations are not infallible.
Why do
That
we
they are
teach
infallible.
our children that?
But, no, because You are
Yes, and also
obliged.
the Catholic family do.
No, wait. No. Because
It's
as
in the
you are
Catholic
obliged
family
to
too.
do more than accept the infallible teachings in order to go to heaven. If you only accept the infallible teachings, you go to hell. You have to follow the law of God. For instance, you had to get married in front of a priest in order to go to heaven. And if you didn't get married in front of a priest, you'll go to hell. But in 1631, if you got married without a priest, no problem. You go to heaven. It was a specific command given by the church because of the power to bind and loose. Christ gave the power to bind and loose to the Pope. He has the power to bind things that we were not bound to before and to loose things obviously within limitations.
But that's
But
church
he
law.
just
Right.
bound us to venerate JP2
Right.
and
Well, this is a law.
John the 23rd.
The canonization is not a dogma.
But
It
he
cannot
did
be a
bind
dogma
us.
because there could be no addition to dogma.
He speaks by the authority of our Lord Jesus Christ, binding
Of
on
course.
the whole world.
No, he doesn't bind the whole
He can't
world.
be- But
He
he
does.
can't be speaking an untruth with the whole
No,
world.
but the condition that's missing is a matter of faith and morals. It's not a matter of
It
faith
is
and morals.
faith.
It's
because
No,
you
it
have
isn't.
to believe they're in heaven.
No, you
not.
have to
It's
accept
not
St.
a matter
Thomas
of
Aquinas.
to venerate him.
It's not a matter of faith.
It cannot be a matter of faith. It's
Right.
not. It's obvious that it's not.
Because it didn't come from God.
Because it could not be, and that includes St. John Vianney,
There
St.
had- there
Ambrose,
had-
St. Augustine, every great saint. They cannot be a part of faith and morals. St. Peter could not have known that John Vianney was in heaven. Because he wasn't even born
He
yet.
didn't need to know.
And there was no way that he could have known. Yeah, it's okay, got a little bit more time
St.
today.
Peter also didn't know Our Lady was immaculately conceived, maybe they didn't know that.
No, yes, they did, and they taught it.
But
Thomas
no,
Aquinas didn't
everybody
know
knew
it.
that.
Yes, he did. St. Thomas Aquinas did
not.
teach it, and that's one of the main attacks against St. Thomas Aquinas. St. Thomas Aquinas had a minor misunderstanding, but St. Thomas Aquinas taught, and what St. Thomas Aquinas taught is contained in the encyclical of Leo the 13th. Of Pius the whatever his name is, the 9th, on the decree of the Immaculate Conception. Guess where all the text is coming from?
Where?
It's coming from the Summa Theologica of St. Thomas Aquinas. Direct quote. That's what Pius IX uses. And the enemy is, and so that St. Thomas Aquinas taught the truth. And the truth is, the Blessed Virgin Mary had to be redeemed. And that's part of the infallible teaching of the Immaculate Conception. Scotus taught that the Blessed Virgin Mary did not have to be redeemed. And that's a heresy. The Franciscans are the ones that always claim that Scotus believed in the Immaculate Conception and Thomas Aquinas didn't. But Scotus was a heretic. Scotus did not believe in the Immaculate Conception because he did not believe that Mary had to be redeemed. He did not believe in
Because she was immaculately conceived or not? Is that why?
she was immaculately conceived.
No, is that why he thought she didn't need to be redeemed?
He thought she didn't need to be redeemed because she's the mother of God.
Uh-huh.
He did not need redemption. And because she was willed before the creation of the world. Right? Okay, which is
But
Everybody's will before the.
no. I'm thinking God willed the creation of all things. But the thing is, we're not going to go to that whole dispute of Scotus and Thomas Aquinas. But nonetheless, Scotus was wrong. And the Franciscans are the ones that always pull up that example because Scotus did believe that from the first moment Mary was immaculately conceived, whereas St. Thomas Aquinas believed that she became immaculate at the moment after her conception.
That's not true.
Yeah, of course it's not true. What is true is she had to be redeemed, as St. Thomas taught. She had to exist before she could be redeemed. But what happened was God redeemed her at the moment of her creation, so that she was preserved from saying that's the teaching of the church.
Right.
She was, but nonetheless, with regard to the Immaculate Conception, St. Peter taught it. St. Thomas Aquinas taught it about 2,000 years later, but Peter taught it, Andrew taught it, St. John the Apostle taught it. We have the Feast of Immaculate Conception goes back to as far as there's been Catholics, right? Same thing with the Assumption. The Assumption was defined in 1950. The Feast is 2,000 years old, right? And Assumption is a good example. 1950, it's defined, but St. Thomas witnessed it. And St. Thomas taught it to his Indians that Mary was assumed into heaven. And then, so the, and it's been taught ever since then, and there's been feasts ever since then. It's only because of modern denials that it was extraordinarily defined. So every single doctrine defined, and ordinarily as well as extraordinarily, is contained in the gospel, contained in sacred scripture and the teaching of the saints. Right.
Father, hasn't it always been tradition with canonization of saints that the church is saying that they're not saying they're in heaven, they're absolutely certain, but it's most likely that this person is in heaven based on...
No. What they're saying is they are definitely in heaven. And that, not only that, because anybody can be in heaven, but that they are examples of virtue to be followed and their doctrine is safe. And in some of them they made mistakes in the doctrine, and the church would point out what those mistakes were. And so, no, it's more than that. That's the argument of Bishop Fillet, in which he says that it only says they're in heaven, and of course anybody can be in heaven. I mean, Hitler could have been repented, before he blew his own brains out or whatever he did. You can repent between the suicide and the act of suicide and the death. And so
we don't know. But we don't know anything about that.
We don't know anything about it, so it's irrelevant.
But the saints we declare.
So the saints are not declared that they're just in heaven. That's useless.
Right.
Anybody can be in heaven. The saints are declared as they are models of virtue, extraordinary virtue, examples of how to live the gospel. That's the connection with faith and more.
Right.
You want to live the gospel, follow what St. John Vianney did, what Ambrose did, what any of the saints did, all of them. And so you'll find also a unity. You'll find a common reaction of all the saints now 2,000 years to each of the crises that they ran into. You won't find a difference between their essential reactions. So, but with regard to this, the canonization, it's just the first pope that canonized was in the 9th century. No saint pope, most of the popes that were saints, they never canonized anybody. None of the saints of the first 1,000 years are basically canonized. None of them.
But they were martyred.
Because they were
No, not all of them. Augustine wasn't a martyr. Hilary wasn't a martyr. Athanasius wasn't a martyr. Many of them were not martyrs. Even in the age of martyrdom, there are a few that died without being martyred.
By popular demand.
Yes, that's the most important thing. That's the most important thing.
Well, the Poles were clamoring for JP2, there's no question about it.
Yeah, but you know what's interesting, and I just saw it in the newspaper also, a similar thing. Because everything's mathematical nowadays, his popularity is less now than when he was alive.
Yeah, but the saints' popularity has gone way down too. Look at poor Saint.
No, the saints' popularity went up over the years, right?
Some.
Even Christopher is still popular.
Yeah, but he's not a saint anymore.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting? You know about modernism? You know one of the first guys to deny that Christopher's existence? His name was Butler. And he died like 1800.
Butler, what do you mean, Lives of the Saints?
Butler's Lives of the Saints. You know what it says about Christopher? It says that there was some guy named Christopher who had, he probably chose the name Christopher because he loved Jesus in his heart. This is written in 1790s, right? He loved Jesus in his heart, right?
I'm going to look it up, I have them.
Look it up, the old one.
I have the Butler's Lives of the Saints at home, and I looked up St. Christopher, right? Yeah. And he's got more pages printed about him than what some of the other saints have. You must have a wrong book.
No, I went to the original edition.
Well,
I got it. I went to Australia. No, and he's not the other one. Butler is one of the main criminals. Read Butler on every one of them.
Wait a minute.
No, Butler is one of the worst.
No
excuse for Butler.
Wait a minute. Then you must be ancient because you must be born in the 1800s.
No, but the book was born in the 1800s.
How about
The book was, and it's still there.
What does the Golden Legend say about
The Golden Legend is totally different. The Golden Legend has all his miracles. The Golden Legend is wonderful. It has everything. It has all the miracles of Christopher, fighting with the devil and everything else. But the thing is that with regard to Butler, he does it with every saint. Well, we don't know whether he really did this miracle or that miracle. Every saint, the whole thing.
Yeah, right.
He chops them up into bits.
He's a doubting Thomas on the wall.
He is a definite modernist.
Right. But anyway, no, it's there. It's there.
Yeah.
It must have about 3 pages on St. Christopher.
Yeah, I read the Christopher thing. What I did was I read it because I finally got an actual edition from 1823. Because I've seen it before, always republished.
1823?
I forget the exact 18 something.
Mine's 1820, so it goes before yours.
It must be the same edition, 1820. It's the same one.
No, there's 3 years.
It's really hard to open, because it's old. I went straight to, because it's 12 volumes? And I went and pulled out, I was guessing because, since it's summertime, it's Christopher, so I got the right volume. And it says there, and again, it says the same thing the modernists say. There was a big statue of Christopher. And from this big statue, the legend that he was a giant came into being.
He's in all the cathedrals in Europe, from the 1300s and the 1200s, so Butler can give it up. huge statues of St. Christopher in almost all the.
I know that, and he says because there were
And he
big
knows better.
statues, people believed that he was, it's kind of like somebody carved a
They made a
statue and
statue.
called it Christopher, and then somebody believed in Christopher. You know, normally, you know, you buy the baseball card of, what's his name, what's the $1 million baseball card that, you know, Mickey Mantle. You buy the Mickey Mantle baseball card, not because it's a nice card, but because the guy was pretty good at hitting balls and catching them and stuff like that. You know, and so that is why you buy the card.
But you don't think he's the size
Wouldn't
on the
mind.
card.
You don't think it's idiotic. But,
That's good.
and also, if you remember,
Francis-
St. Pius X in 1907 wrote Pascendi, and what did he say? There are innumerable heretical books in our days.
A lady said that too.
It's 1907.
Well, didn't he point out
Imagine if Rampolla was alive.
that line of thinking of the modernists where they try to relate all the miracles and everything to certain interpretations?
Yes,
that were
there's a
later
system.
attached.
Right.
It's like historicism or something.
Well,
like
it is. It's like a formula. It's a system. You take whatever the saint is, and including Christ, and what you do is you say the legend began 20 years after he died by some song. Then over time, a legend was developed based on shared memories, okay, of experiences, which may not match historical events. And then the legend is developed, and that's exactly what Butler says about Christopher. He says about other saints, ancient saints as well. He quite
Yeah, I know at the end of it, he always says, but this, or this, or this, right?
right. But see, because he's earlier, he can't be as bold as now. Because if he was very clear denying Christopher, somebody would have went and killed him, right?
So he's a real modernist. I should
Yes.
ditch those books. I should keep them.
Yeah. And also, you know, it's interesting when you read them. It's like a scientific manual or something.
Kind of dry.
Yes.
Kind of dry.
Yeah, it's like, you know,
Very
dry.
Christopher may have lived in the 2nd, 3rd century. He loved Jesus in his heart. You know where somebody does love Jesus in their heart.
Pretty soon they're gonna say Christ was just someone they talked about in.
That's correct. They were laying the foundations for it, see.
So, Father, to change the subject, on
Yeah.
geocentrism.
Yes.
The very fact that the sun stood still at Panama should tell people something.
That is right. But
That
the
the
other
earth
good
is
thing about
moving. The sun
geocentrism,
is moving.
Most
Pius
people
the
don't believe
Seventh,
that. They think
Pius the Seventh, when he became
it's
Pope, he's the Pope who removed Galileo from the index, changed the scientific community, and was the first Pope to sign a document approving of religious liberty.
Pius the Seventh, I'm looking at.
What he did was, he didn't directly approve of it. What he did was, he signed an accord, you know, like the Augsburg, was it the Augsburg Confession? What's the one is the, you know, the Protestants fighting the Catholics and all that. He was the first Pope to say, okay, let's just agree to disagree. But he was careful in how he said it, because he didn't say it heretically. He said it in a way that, okay, let's just agree to disagree. And there's other things he may have done in his papacy as well, Pius VII.
How could he say agree to disagree?
He died in 1821 or
Oh,
1823.
Pius the
Pius
Seventh.
the Seventh.
He died in 1823. He became Pope in 18, he
He
was
used
Napoleon.
to
You know?
levitate.
Pius the
Pius
Seventh.
the Seventh used to levitate.
Not according to what Father just said.
I read the whole his book. He was a great saint. He's not a saint.
Go get him, Rosie.
Pius
a
the
great
Seventh.
pope.
There's so
Because
many
he's
phones
the
going
one who
around.
did a lot of really I don't know about his levitating, because Pius maybe think of Pius VI. Pius VI was the one who was captured by Napoleon and died after he returned to Rome.
Say that again.
Pius VI, the Pope before him, he was the Pope that was captured by Napoleon and was abused by Napoleon. Remember, he tried to what do you call
It
it?
was Pius the Seventh that, I think, converted Napoleon at the end. Wasn't it Pius the Seventh?
Pius VI, I think, he died. He died from the abuse. He was already old and he was not directly killed, he was abused.
Pius the Seventh. He used to levitate. He was a.
But you know, speaking of something about levitation, because I gotta go here,
Wait a minute.
is
Father has the levitation.
Magdalena de la Paz. Magdalena de la Paz. Magdalena de la Paz, She lived in the 1500s, and she was believed to be a saint.
Oh, yes, that's
Five to seven.
Yeah, she could do all those things, levitate, she had visions, she lived only on the Blessed Sacrament. Magdalena de la Paz, right, this is her name, in Spain. The priest believed her, the bishop believed her, everybody believed that she was a saint. Then somehow they found food under her bed or something. Turned out she wasn't living on the Blessed Sacrament. So then, they did an investigation. She sold her soul to Satan when she was 9 years old.
Who?
Magdalena de la Paz. And she said she learned how to imitate a trance. For instance, you know how in a real ecstasy, you don't notice anything around you? And so one of the ways to test it is they take pins and they poke you, and if you don't react, she knew that's what they would do to her, and they did. And she learned from Satan, she felt the pain, but she learned how to fake it, and how to not move, because of the strength of her will, and to imitate a false trance. And it went on for a long time. Everybody believed her for a long, long time.
Hindus and the Eastern religions do that
Yeah,
stuff.
you can train yourself, you see.
Yeah, they do. They walk on poles.
At the altar, when he was saying mass, he used to levitate. I have a book on him.
Oh my goodness.
Father, tell us
Burn the
about
book.
Rosie, watch out for that hammer in his hand, okay?
Tell people about the movie.
Yes, yes. What is it? The principal. The principal. Hopefully it's gonna really come out.
I hope so.
Okay, okay. We're getting filled up.
Crazy
We're
times.
getting full, but we're trying to find priests to help us out.
It's probably never been any different though. It's probably never been any different. It's just worse now because it's intensified.
Okay, I'll try not to lose it. I'll probably lose it, but you never know. Okay, we better go. I gotta go.
Yeah, she's counting every one of them.
We got it. Okay, we give a blessing here. Thank you, Graham. Benedictio Dei Benedictis, Padre et Filii et Spiritus Sancti, et in super vos et Maria Semper.